Hello everyone, this is Madan. How are you all doing? So, what is that small story? During war, especially during war, there are several heroic stories. And in the same way, especially during war, there are horrible stories about horrible, barbaric, and inhuman acts of humans inflicted on his fellow humans. There are legends and heroes who emerge out of war. There are monsters who evolve out of war. So I would like to say one simple story, but that is loaded with infinite wisdom. British have had elaborate customs and still have in their social life. So it was not any different that the army, navy and air force of the British had certain royal customs. The life in military was strictly divided into soldiers and officers. It was the same case in Air Force too. During World War, Air Force played a vital role in the war. Pilots, especially skilled pilots, were always in need. They are always in readiness and take off the moment the air raids alarm is raised. After they have engaged in the battle in the skies, the pilots return to their quarters and gather in the bar in the army base for a couple of drinks. Drinking alcohol has always been an accepted tradition in Western culture. But we know what alcohol can do to some men after they are drunk. They become rowdy, get into arguments, and on several occasions they get into physical fights. But usually in the bars where the British pilots gather, there used to be calmness and pilots quietly drinking their pegs and engage in soft conversations. It was always like that. They never argued, they never fought among themselves after they got drunk, if at all they get drunk. So once someone asked a pilot, why is that you guys are soft spoken and don't get into arguments or fights? So he replied, do you know the life expectancy of a fighter pilot? The maximum is 4 weeks. That is barely a month. So every time I go out in the skies, I don't know if I will return. So I know the value of life and what little time I have left in this life. So why do I have to get into a silly bar fight? I want to enjoy my drink, speak softly to my fellow fighter pilots because I don't know if I will meet them again tomorrow. That is the simple story. Now let us see the analysis and actual incidents. The defense of Britain during the Battle of Britain depended on the courage of just 2,937 British and Allied air crew. The average age of Battle of Britain pilots was just 20 years old. The German Air Force, called the Luftwaffe, always wanted to destroy the RAF, that is the British Air Force, and gain air superiority. They were all doing this in preparation for an invasion of Britain, historically named as Battle of Britain. The RAF aircrew were flying multiple sorties a day to intercept the relentless Luftwaffe light raids over British skies. Sorties means come out of from a defensive position to make an attack. Aircrew from 16 nationalities flew and fought together against the Luftwaffe. In spite of this combination, the German aircrafts outnumbered the RAF in both aircraft and pilots. Against all odds, the RAF defeated the Luftwaffe and Hitler was forced to abandon his plans to invade Britain. There were 544 air crew who were killed during Battle of Britain. A further 422 air crew were wounded. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill famously said that never in the field of human conflicts has so much been owed by so many to so few. If you ask a question, what was the bloodiest battle in human history, it was World War II. There were over 70 million casualties.
Being assigned to a bomber crew in World War II was basically a death sentence. During the peak of World War II, being a member of a heavy bomber crew meant you were incredibly brave and you will not hesitate to lay down your life for your country. The life of the bomber crew was that dangerous. Nearly 71% of the bomber's crew were either killed or labeled as missing in action. It is said that accounts for approximately 1 lakh service members. One of Germany's primary defenses against Allied bombers was their massive array of anti-aircraft guns. Typically, the bombers had to fly right through the multiple volleys of gunfire continuously coming from anti-aircraft guns. For the fighter plane pilot, the most dangerous flights were the first and last 5 trips. During the whole war, 51% of aircrew were killed on operations, 12% were killed or wounded in non-operational accidents, and 13% became prisoners of war or evaders. Only 24% survived the war unscathed. In one of the forums, a guy told his uncle's story. His uncle was a Lancaster heavy bomber pilot in Bomber Command. He had absolutely no idea of the death rate among bomber crews until 1960s when he saw a TV program. He was traumatized badly after he learnt the truth. He said he could never understand why bomber aircrews were constantly being moved around different squadrons. Then when he saw the TV program, he understood that practice. He realized it was to mask heavy consistent rates of deaths among the aircrew. If the pilots know the actual number of deaths, they may be demoralized or lose their courage. Also, he said that it was common on every raid over Europe to see the next bomber information blown to bits as though it was made of cardboard. Bomber crews had the highest attrition, or loosely we can say the death rates, compared to fighter aircraft pilots. But there were other factors too. Pilots were told that the RAF would understand if a pilot lost his courage and returned home before reaching the target. But, he said, those that did, lost their commission and the respect of other pilots and were assigned to the shittiest jobs in the RAF. And in every other places they would mock him that this guy is that pilot who lost his courage. That guy's uncle had also told that pilots again and again fly because they don't want to get that name. A pilot's daily life. The everyday lives of most aircrew, unlike other servicemen, were a unique mixture of danger and normality. At one moment the men were on a bombing raid, a few hours later they were safely at home in the pub. Bomber operations were extremely stressful and frequently perilous, with a random chance of death or horrific injury. Flying was physically and mentally demanding, and constant concentration was needed for many hours at a time. Airmen had to not only fight the enemy, but also a hostile environment. They might fly into many kinds of bad weather. Occupational hazards such as lack of oxygen, frostbite, and low pressures at high altitude meant they needed equipment to keep them warm and breathing. These problems were increased by operating at night. For aircrew returning safely from an operation, they feel enormous relief that they did not die during that flight. Once home, they could enjoy a hot meal and a sleep in a warm bed. For the next few days, there might be no flying. RF stations generally had good leisure facilities, and there were frequent dances, mess parties, and variety shows. Aircrew were given generous amounts of leave, with a 7-day pass every 6 weeks and shorter periods granted during prolonged bad weather or after difficult operations.
All aircrew were given some instructions in aviation techniques. Before each operation, they were also issued with some local currency, a small hacksaw, a compass, a silk escape map, and an escape aid box. The box contained enough concentrated food to last for 48 hours or for 7 days if they were flying over Germany. As the war progressed, the British Escape Service M19 developed a chain of courageous helpers. They sheltered the pilots and helped them to cross the border to the neutral Spain or Switzerland. Airmen who became prisoners of war, that is POWs, first went to Gulag Luft, a transit camp near Frankfurt, where they were interrogated for information, and then to a permanent camp. The journey between camps often offered the best chance for an escape. Conditions for POWs were harsh. Food was always scarce and poor quality. The camps were cold in winter and often overcrowded. They were sustained by parcels of food, medicine and other comforts sent by Red Cross. Almost 10,000 aircrew from Bomber Command became POWs. I would like to say a small tidbit. That is, if you can ask a question, which World War II plane had the most kills? A new book examines the life of a World War II German ace. While serving in Germany's Luftwaffe in World War II, Erich Hartmann flew more than 1,400 missions in Messerschmitt Bf-109, enabling him to score an astonishing 352 kills. Now let us go back to the small story and an even bigger truth. The pilots knew their lifespan and they were polite and did not fight with each other. Now isn't it the truth of all human beings on this planet? Everyone knows that they will die, and even some could guesstimate their age, say at 60 or 70 I will die. So why can't we be polite to each other? Don't fight against each other. Most importantly, don't wage war and kill fellow human beings. This thing is the biggest truth that is in front of everyone on this planet. The problem is the same since humans started thinking. It is a small group that destroys everything. It is a small group that fights for peace and everything that is good for humans. This is a constant throughout human history. Now, can I ask you a small question? Which small group do you belong? Thanks for watching the video till the end. Please like, comment, subscribe and share it widely. Thanks once again. Take care. Bye bye.